Shalom. Today's sermon taking from the 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 22, and my topic is how can we flee from youthful lust, or how do we flee from youthful lust. As I like to bring my first point under the topic, how do we skip or how do we flee from youthful lust by living righteously. As we see that Paul is writing to Timothy because Timothy is pastoring the church of Ephesus. He is a young pastor and he is the leading the church of Ephesus. So here the Paul is writing that Paul heard about him that my son is discouraged by the people. My son is trying to give up from the ministry because there are many more people who are more educated than Timothy. There are many more things are going on that church that discouraged Timothy because he is a youth. And Paul is saying in chapter 2 verse 22 that flee also from youthful lust. Flee also from youthful lust, but pursue righteousness. He is saying that you can flee from youthful lust if there is a temptation, if there is a bad things are going on, if there is like a persecution or temptation or trials are in your life. My son, flee from there, because you have to pursue righteousness. The faith I have seen in your grandmother, the faith I have seen in your mother, I am seeing that faith is in you. When we read here in first chapter verse 5, when I call to remembrance the genuine faith that is in you, which dwell first in your grandmother Leos and your mother Eunice, and I am persuaded in you also. So Paul is writing and he is saying to Timothy, he is encouraging Timothy, I have seen the great faith in your grandmother. I have seen the great faith in your mother. So that faith I am seeing in you, and you are pastoring the church, you are leading the church, you are feeding the church of God. So don't be discouraged, don't be dismayed, don't try to flee or don't try to escape the ministry. There will be trial, there will be many temptations in your life as you are the youth. So what we can learn from the life of Timothy, he is pastoring the church, he is leading the church, but because he is a youth, Paul is saying in chapter 2 verse 22, flee also youthful lust, but pursue righteousness, faith, love, peace with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart. So he is telling, my son, don't be discouraged, because pursue righteousness, flee from youthful lust, faith, love, peace with those who call on the Lord, on the name of the Lord, or by the God, because whoever call on the name of the Lord, who are called by God, they are elected one. So here I like to bring my first point under the topic, how do we flee from youthful lust. My first point is by living righteously. How can we live righteous life? Righteous means right with God. In everything that we do, we have to right with God. If yes, then yes. If no, then no. So when we see in the life of Joseph, wherever the Joseph is living, his brother has denied him. His brother has sold out in the Egypt, and he came in the house of Potiphar, and there he is doing whatever he is doing by faithfully, by righteously, because he is righteous before God. So he's whatever he is doing there, his master is seeing then. His master is seeing in him, through him, because his master is possible because of Joseph, because Joseph is living righteously before God, and whatever he is doing, God is blessing him. Through his work, his master is blessed, and his master himself is saying, your God blesses you. And he has shown mercy on him through his master, through his all over the work of Joseph, and his master making him overseer of his whole house. because God is with him and he is righteously he is living. So here when we see that, here Paul is saying to Timothy, flee also youthful lust, but pursue righteousness. So my first point is by living righteously. So Timothy is living righteous life. As we are youth, how can we live righteous life? We have to surrender God. We have to live righteously. We have to walk right with God in each and everything that we do. We have to submit ourselves as we are in house, as we are in family. We have to submit ourselves to our parents, or maybe we are in institute, we are in college, so we have to submit ourselves to our teachers, to our professors, to our elders, and we have to submit that God may please through us, because a youth, we have to be so careful in our youthful life, because sometimes temptation came many ways. It's a form of beautiful girl, or it's maybe came from a handsome boy. So many types of temptation came in our life, but we have to live our life righteously, right with God. In each and everything, we have to be righteous with God. We have to surrender our God, that our God will provide our every needs. As righteously we live righteously, God knows everything from our. As in my place, one of my friend, he's working in an institute. He's working with faithfully, but nobody is seeing his faithfulness. He is giving his best to that grow that institute, but he is discouraged by the people, but he is discouraged by his co-worker. But God is seeing him, that he is living righteously, that he is doing the right things for the God's kingdom, for the God's gospel. So after some times, people are denied him that he is doing righteous, but they are not giving him encouragement, giving him congrats. After some time, God saw his mercy on him, and God made him leader of that institute. That because of his faithfulness, because of his righteous living, God made him a leader of that institute. So if we live a righteous life, if we live righteously, God will make us in big things. God will make us overseer or leader of many things that we are doing. God wants our righteously. We have to walk righteously with God. We have to walk righteously before God, because Timothy is living righteous life, and he is encouraging the people. He is giving his best effort to grow the church. So we have to live a righteous life before God, before our parents, before our teachers, before our elders. And under the topic, how do we flee from youthful lust, I like to bring my second point, by living faithfully. How can we live a life of faithfulness? As we see in the life of Joseph, he is faithful before God. He is faithful before his master. He is faithful before his all over the master's work. At one time, not even one time, whenever his master is out from his house, Potiphar's wife is tempting him every single day. Every single day she is abusing him, that she wanted to live with Joseph. But Joseph is faithful before God. Joseph is righteous before God. As we see in first point, he is righteous before God. And Joseph is faithful before God and his master's work. So we have to live a faithful life before God, because Joseph is living righteously, he's living faithfully. And one day that happened, that Joseph and Potiphar's wife both are in the house, and there she got a chance to abuse Joseph. She got a chance to hold Joseph, to have sex with Joseph. But Joseph flee from that youthful lust. He is a youth, but he flee from that place. He ran away from there, because if even he did not run away, he may be tempted. He may be involved in that that work or involved in that sexual temptation, but he flee because he said, this is not right thing before God. I am the servant of God and I am faithful in his house. I am faithful in this place. I am faithful in master's house. I am faithful with my God. So if I do this cruel thing before God, nobody can see me, but my God is seeing me. So he flee from that place. He flee from there. He ran away because he is faithful before God. So as a youth, if we are tempted by many things in many ways, if we are not running from that, I'm sure that we will be fall in that sin. I'm sure that we will be fall and we will be tempted and we will be abused by that sin. But here we see that Paul is writing to Timothy, my beloved son, live a faithful life before God. As you are living in church, as you are pastoring the church, as you are leading the church, I want to tell you that live a faithful life before God, before the whatever God has given you in the Ephesus, in the church. Live a faithful life. If you are living a faithful life, God will make you overseas many more things. It's okay, the people are not respecting you in the church. It's okay, people are not giving the appreciation to you. But I am telling to you, my Lord son, that live a faithful life before God. If people are not giving appreciation or people are not encouraging, it's okay. A Father in heaven, he is seeing us and he will reward us. Chapter 4 verse 8 says, finally there is a land up for me, the crown of righteousness, which is the Lord, the righteous church, will give me on the day, and not to me only, but also to all who have loved his appearing. So he is telling that it's okay nobody appreciate you, it's okay nobody encourage you. Remember, there is a crown of righteousness. If you are living righteously, if you are living faithfully, there is a crown in heaven. It's okay as a youth, we are disappointed by many ways, by many people, by our co-workers, by our friends, by our families. But if we live a righteous life, if we live a faithful life, as a Joseph is living faithfully life, after that, Potiphar came, Potiphar put him in jail, that also God is with him and God is making him there also the master. And after we see the life of Joseph, he is the second number of in the Egypt, in the land. God make him the leader, the ruler. So what we can learn from the life of Joseph, we have to live righteously. We have to live faithfully before God. If we are faithful in small things, God will make in many more things. So we have to see the level of faith. We have to pray. If we are unable to be a faithful, we have to pray to God. God, make me a faithful. Grow my faith. In Matthew, that verse says, if you have faith like mustard seed, and you say to this mountain, cut up from here and throw into the sea, he will obey. So God wants us faith, a mustard seed, a small seed, but it can move mountains. Maybe you have many mountains in your life, maybe mountains of fear, maybe mountains of discouragement, many sicknesses you have, many discouragement you have. But God is saying to you, if you have faith like mustard seed, your mountain will move. So believe in God, live righteously, be faithful with God in all your household. As Joseph living his life faithfully, God bless him in many more ways. God is making him a ruler of the Egypt. So here Timothy is trying to leave his ministry, but Paul is saying him that Paul is pleading his spiritual son not to get discouraged or quit from the ministry. He asked him to continue in the service of the Master. Master means servant of the God. Paul wrote this because many have left the ministry during seasons of trials and persecutions, or because of false doctrines as he is leading the church. Many more false doctrines are there, many more trials are there, many more persecutions are there, especially he is a youth. So many ways persecution may come as a youth. So before he came in the trials, before he came in the lustful things, so he is saying to him that flee from youthful lust, pursue the righteousness, faith, love, peace with those who call on the Lord out of pure heart. You are called by God, so you have to flee from youthful lust. You are called by God, so you have to be faithful. You are called by God. It's okay, people may leave. It's okay, you get discouragement. But one thing, don't try to quit the ministry as a youth, as a servants of God. In many ways, there are temptations coming, but we have to fight our all battles with the prayer as a youth. How can a youth escape from the youthful lust? Or how can a youth flee from youthful lust? By pursuing the righteousness, by pursuing the faithfulness, by living righteously, by living faithfully. Under the topic, how do we flee from youthful lust, I like to bring my third point, by living separately. As we read in the last part, peace with those who call on the Lord out of pure heart. We are a called out generation. We are called out by God. Ecclesia means, in Hebrew, ecclesia means a call out. We are the call out people from the world. We are from the world, but we are called out. God has called us from the world. As a youth, we see our brothers, our sisters, our friends in the world, what they are doing in these days. They are tempted by many sins, many sexual immoralities, many sexual sins, or many type of sins, pride, old nature. They are doing the same things. They are trying to live, but they can't. They are trying their best to not to do or not to involve in, not to commit their sins, but they can't, because they are not living righteously, because they are not living faithfully. But Timothy, Paul is telling that Timothy, my beloved son, live a separate life. It's okay, you are in church, you are pastoring, that's good, but live separately with them. Be separated from them, because you are called out from the world. As a youth, we are all called out from the world. God has called us to be His ministers. God has called us to be His servants. God has called us to be His missionaries. As a youngsters, we have to live a life of faithfulness, in righteousness, in separately. We have to live a life separately from the world. We are living in the world, but we are not of the world. We are called out people. So Paul is telling him that, Timothy, we are in same boat. I did not quit, though Paul left me, the Lord stood with me. You also should not quit, but please remain stand fast. Here we see that Paul is encouraging the Timothy, my beloved son, it's okay, you may be discouraged. It's okay, nobody with you now. But remember, God is with us and God is standing with us. Here we see that chapter 4 verse 17. But the Lord stood with me and strengthened me so that the message might be preached fully through me, and that all the Gentiles might hear, and I have delivered out of the mouth of the lions. God is with him, and through through his experience, Paul is telling the Timothy, my beloved son, live a life of separation. You are in church, you are youth, live life of separation. As we are youth, we have to live a life separately. We see Joseph's life, he is living separately. Yes, he is in Egypt, he is in Potiphar's house, but he is living his life separately. The wife of Potiphar, she's abusing him. She's trying to do or commit a sexual sins, but he is living there. He's doing his best for his master, to please his master, but he's living separately. So wherever we are as a youth, wherever we are, no matter, we have to live a life separately. We have to live separately through them. Because it's okay we are in college, it's okay we are in schools, it's okay we are in the world, we are in working places, but live your life separately. As Timothy, he's living in Ephesus, he's pastoring, he's leading. Paul is saying, live your life separately, because you are the call out people, you are the call out. And he says that faith, love, peace with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart. You are a man of pure heart, you are a servant of pure heart. Live separately. So as we see that when Moses bring out the people of Israel from the Egypt, they are out of Egypt, but they are thinking, whenever they see the temptations, or whenever they see there is no way, when they are thirsty, there is no water in the desert, so they are remembering the Egypt. When we are in Egypt, there is a persecution, there is a trials, there are we servants of Pharaoh, but we are living, we are drinking, we are eating the meat. But in the wilderness, what we can eat, what we can drink, they are murmuring against Moses and God. But a God who is a provider. The motive is, even though they are out of Egypt, but Egypt is still in their hearts. So we are called out people. Ecclesia means called out, the separated one. So we have to live life on separation. We have to live separately. So we are called out. So we need to live life separately. And we have to leave all the things that we are supposed to do before we came in Jesus Christ, before we accept Jesus Christ. But now we have accepted, we are living righteously, we are living faithfully, so we have to live separately. Yeah, we are living in the world, but we have to live separately. As Joseph is living in the Egypt, he is living in the house of Potiphar, but he is separated by God. He is not, his master's wife is doing, she wanted to do many more things, but he is separated. He is not allowed in that place, that sin. So he is separate. We have to live a life separately. So here we see under the topic, how do we skip or we flee from youthful lust? For first point is by living righteously. The second point is by living faithfully. The third point is by living separately. So Paul is telling that unless you finish what you're supposed to do, don't quit. As a youth, as a young pastors, or as a students, or as a co-workers, leader, we have some goals, we have some targets in our life. Unless you finish your work, don't quit. We will try many more times, we will fall. As the scripture says in Proverbs, that a righteous man falls 7 times, but he will stand again. He will do it again, because he knows he who calls you is a faithful, and he will do it for him. So here, a God is with us. So Paul is saying that, my beloved son, don't be discouraged unless you finish your work. Don't quit. And here we 4 to says, preach the gospel. be ready in season and out of season. As a youngster, as a youth, as a servants of God, we have to live separately. We have to live righteously. We have to live faithfully. And here it says, preach the gospel. As the servants of God, God has commanded us to preach the gospel. So we have to preach. We have to live a life in obedience. We have to give a living sacrifice to God. We have to please God, not the people. We have to live for God, not for our own pleasure. We have to please our God. So today we have seen under the topic, how do we flee from youthful lust? Text is 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 22. Flee also youthful lust, but pursue righteousness, faith, love, peace with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart. So in this passage we have seen 3 points: by living righteously, by living faithfully, by living separately. So unless we finish our work or what we supposed to do, there is no quit, there is no exit in our dictionary. As a youth, we receive our strength by God. We receive our strength by our God. So we have to live a life faithful. So we have seen 3 points. So 3 sermons. God will bless all of us.